The divorce papers arrive while I'm deleting text messages from someone who doesn't matter anymore. 537 messages over 2 months. Each one proof that when I said just flirting, I was lying to everyone, especially myself. My lawyer says to save everything for evidence. But evidence of what? That I'm exactly who Keith said I was the night he packed his bags? Someone who could look him in the eye and lie about something that meant everything? I live alone now, in a studio apartment in Tucson, 23 floors below the penthouse Keith and I shared in Charlotte. The building manager here calls it cozy. It's not cozy, it's what you get when you sign a prenup thinking you'll never need it. When you throw away 12 years for 8 weeks of attention from someone whose last name you never bothered to learn. Keith's attorney included a note with the papers. My client wishes to proceed as quickly as possible. He's requested no further direct contact. Please communicate only through counsel. No direct contact. Like we're strangers who happen to collide, not two people who spent over a decade building something I demolished with 3 words. It meant nothing. But that's jumping to the end when I should start at the beginning. When I was Rachel Winters, 34 and restless, married to Keith Donovan, the only man who ever saw through my bullshit and loved me anyway. Until he stopped. Until I gave him a reason to stop. Until those 3 words became the most expensive lie I ever told. Keith and I met at a medical conference in Baltimore. He was presenting on pediatric cardiology. I was there as a pharmaceutical rep, hired more for my smile than my science background. During his presentation, he caught me yawning in the 3rd row. "Am I boring you?" he asked, stopping mid-sentence about ventricular repairs. 200 doctors turned to stare at me. I should have been mortified. Instead, I smiled wider. "Little bit," I said. "But I'm sure the heart stuff is important." The room held its breath. Keith studied me for a moment, then laughed. This surprising, genuine sound that transformed his serious face. "Fair enough," he said. "Coffee after this?" You can tell me how to be less boring. That was Keith. Where other men would have been offended, he was intrigued. Where others saw rudeness, he saw honesty. He pursued me with the same methodical patience he used in surgery, careful and deliberate and absolutely certain of what he wanted. "You're not like the others," he told me 6 months later, moving my things into his Charlotte penthouse. "You don't pretend. You don't play games." I let him believe that. Let him think my bluntness was authenticity instead of another kind of performance. Keith, brilliant as he was with hearts, never quite understood that some people are exactly who they pretend not to be. We were good together. Great, even. Keith's steadiness balanced my chaos. His introversion made space for my need to be seen. He'd spend weekends reading medical journals while I dragged him to rooftop bars, charity galas, anywhere I could wear a dress that cost more than most people's rent. "You sure you're not bored?" I'd ask, finding him in a corner at some party, drinking the same scotch he'd been nursing all night. "Never bored when I'm watching you," he'd say. And he meant it. Keith looked at me like I was performing just for him, like my need for attention was charming instead of exhausting. We got married in Napa, small ceremony, which killed me, but Keith insisted. "I only need you there," he said. "Everyone else is just noise." I posted every single photo on Instagram anyway. Needed people to see how beautiful we looked, how perfect everything was, how lucky I was. The likes poured in, friends from high school commenting on my dress, my ring, my surgeon husband who looked at me like I was the only person in the world. "You're glowing," my sister Anna said at the reception. "I've never seen you this happy." "Why wouldn't I be happy?" I said, already 3 champagnes in, already scanning the room for who was watching us. "Just be good to him," she said. "Keith's different. He actually loves you." Like the others hadn't? But Anna was right. Keith's love was different. It was patient and quiet and absolutely secure. He never checked my phone, never questioned my nights out, never made me feel like I had to earn his trust, which made it so much easier to break. The problem started 5 years in. Not a problem exactly, just an itch. Keith had been promoted to head of pediatric surgery. His hours got longer, his attention more divided. He'd come home exhausted, fall asleep listening to me talk about my day, wake up apologizing. "I'm sorry," he'd say. "Tell me again. I want to hear everything." But I didn't want to repeat myself. I wanted to be heard the first time. Wanted to be more interesting than sleep, more important than the sick kids he spent all day saving. "It's fine," I'd say, already texting friends about meeting up, already planning my next night out without him. That's when I started going to Ethos, this pretentious cocktail bar in Uptown, where pharmaceutical reps and medical device salespeople pretended to network, while really just getting drunk on company cards. Keith never came, said the music was too loud, the people too fake, the drinks too overpriced. "Have fun," he'd say, kissing me goodbye. "Be safe. Text me if you need a ride." Always so trusting, always so sure I'd come home to him. Cameron worked for a competing pharmaceutical company. I'd seen him at conferences, noticed how he commanded rooms the way Keith never tried to. Where Keith was quiet confidence, Cameron was pure performance. Always the loudest laugh, the biggest gesture, the most expensive suit. "Rachel Donovan," he said one night at Ethos, sliding into my booth uninvited. "Where's the good doctor?" "Saving lives," I said, already 2 martinis deep. "Someone has to." "And someone has to keep you company," he said, flagging the waitress. "Can't have Charlotte's most beautiful woman drinking alone." It was such an obvious line, such transparent bullshit. But after 5 years of Keith's sincere compliments, Cameron's empty flattery felt electric. He didn't mean it, which somehow made it more exciting. "I'm married," I said, flashing my ring. 4 carats, emerald cut, exactly what I'd demanded. "I know," Cameron said. "That's what makes this fun." I should have left then. Should have gone home to Keith, to our life, to the man who actually loved me. Instead, I stayed. Let Cameron buy me drinks, let him tell me stories about his sales conquests, let him look at me like I was a challenge instead of a sure thing. "Your husband's a lucky man," he said when the bar closed. "Yes," I said, "he is." That became our pattern. Every Thursday at Ethos. Cameron and I in a booth, drinking too much, talking about nothing, pushing boundaries just to see where they were. He'd compliment my dress, I'd touch his arm when I laughed. He'd lean too close, I'd let him. We were playing with fire, but I told myself it was controlled, contained, safe. "You ever feel stuck?" Cameron asked one night, 6 weeks into our Thursday tradition. "Stuck how? Like you're living someone else's idea of a perfect life?" I thought about Keith, home reading surgical journals, probably asleep on the couch waiting for me. Thought about our beautiful penthouse that felt more like a museum than a home. Thought about how Mrs. Donovan sounded like someone else's name. "Sometimes," I admitted. "Life's short," Cameron said, moving closer. "We should take what we want." "And what do you want?" He looked at me for a long moment. "I think you know." I did know, had known since that first night. Cameron wanted what all men like him wanted, to win something that belonged to someone else. And I wanted to feel like something worth winning again. The kiss happened in the parking lot. Quick, desperate, tasting like whiskey and bad decisions. I pulled away first, my wedding ring catching the light like an accusation. "That can't happen again," I said. "Whatever you say," Cameron smiled, knowing it would. And it did. The next Thursday, and the one after that. Always in the parking lot, always after too many drinks, always followed by me saying it meant nothing. "You're playing with fire," Anna warned when I told her I'd been hanging out with someone from work. "It's just drinks," I said. "Just talking. Keith doesn't like going out anymore. So talk to your husband about that. Don't—" She stopped, studied my face. "Rachel, what are you doing?" "Nothing," I lied. God, why does everyone make such a big deal about everything? I'm allowed to have friends. But Cameron wasn't a friend. He was an escape route I was too coward to take, a disaster I was too selfish to avoid. Every Thursday became a countdown. Keith sleeping while I tried on dresses. Keith trusting while I deleted texts. Keith loving me while I let another man convince me I deserved more. The night everything ended started like any other Thursday. Except Keith was awake when I came downstairs. "You look beautiful," he said from the couch. "Special occasion?" "Just drinks with the work people," I said, avoiding his eyes. "You could come." "Think I will," he said, standing. "I've been neglecting you lately." "Let me grab my jacket." Panic flooded my system. "You hate ethos. It's too loud, remember?" "I can handle one night," he smiled. "Besides, I miss watching you light up a room." I texted Cameron frantically in the bathroom. "Don't come tonight, Kay is with me." His response was immediate. "Too late, already here. This should be interesting." The ride to Ethos was silent. Keith held my hand, thumb tracing circles on my palm like he used to when we were dating. I wanted to tell him to turn around, to go home, to stop being so goddamn trusting. Instead, I fixed my lipstick in the mirror and prayed Cameron would have the sense to leave. He didn't. "Rachel," Cameron called out the moment we walked in, waving from our usual booth. "And this must be the famous Dr. Donovan." Keith shook his hand politely, not seeing the way Cameron held mine a beat too long. We slid into the booth, Keith beside me, Cameron across from us, the air thick with everything unsaid. "So," Keith said, ordering his usual scotch. "You're the co-worker Rachel's been spending Thursday nights with." "Among others," Cameron lied smoothly. "Your wife's quite popular at these networking things." "I'm sure she is," Keith said. His hand found mine under the table. "She usually hates work events, must be the company." Cameron's smile was razor sharp. "Oh, the company's definitely improved lately." "Rachel makes everything more interesting." I downed my martini in 3 gulps, signaling for another. Keith noticed. He always noticed everything, but said nothing. Just squeezed my hand gently, a quiet question I didn't want to answer. "How's the medical device business?" Keith asked, making conversation. "Lucrative," Cameron said. "Though not as noble as saving lives, I'm sure." "Nothing noble about what I do," Keith said simply. "Just fixing broken things." Cameron looked directly at me. "Some things can't be fixed, though, right? Sometimes it's better to just start fresh." The waitress brought my second martini, then my third. Keith switched to water, Cameron kept pace with me, and the conversation grew more pointed with each round. "Rachel tells me you work long hours," Cameron said. "Must be hard on a marriage." "Rachel understands," Keith said. "She knows the work matters." "Still," Cameron pressed, "beautiful woman like this, spending her evenings alone. Someone else might not be so understanding." "Someone else isn't married to her," Keith said quietly. The temperature at the table dropped 10 degrees. "No," Cameron agreed. "They're not." I excused myself to the bathroom, needing air, needing space, needing to not be in the middle of whatever this was becoming. When I came back, they were sitting in silence, 2 predators sizing each other up. "We should go," I said, tugging Keith's arm. "I'm tired." "Already?" Cameron checked his phone theatrically. "It's only 10. We usually close this place down, don't we, Rachel?" Keith stood slowly. "We?" "Figure of speech," I said quickly, too quickly. "The whole group. You know." "Right," Cameron said. "The whole group." All those Thursday nights with the whole group. Keith looked between us, and I saw the exact moment he understood. Not anger, not surprise, just a quiet recognition, like solving an equation he'd been working on subconsciously. "I'll get the car," he said. "Nice meeting you, Cameron." He walked out without looking back. I should have followed immediately, but Cameron grabbed my wrist. "Let him go," he said. "You don't need that boring—" "Don't!" I snapped, yanking free. "Don't you dare!" You don't know him. You don't know anything. I know you've been wanting to leave him for weeks. All that talk about being stuck, feeling invisible. That was just talk, I said. Just the stupid talk. Was the kissing just talk, too? I ran after Keith, found him in the parking lot standing by our car. Not angry, not pacing, just standing there, looking at the Charlotte skyline like it might have answers. Keith dash. How long? He asked without turning around. It's not what you think. That's not what I asked. 6 weeks, maybe 7, but nothing happened, I swear. Just drinks, just talking. And, I wanted to lie. Wanted to protect him from this truth he didn't deserve. But Keith had always seen through my bullshit. That's what made him different. And kissing, I whispered. Just kissing. A few times, in the parking lot. He nodded like I'd confirmed something he already knew. Did you sleep with him? No, God, no. Keith, I would never... But you wanted to. It wasn't a question. I couldn't answer anyway. I'm going home, he said, finally looking at me. His eyes were dry, calm, resolved. You should stay. Finish your evening with the whole group. Keith, please. Let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for 7 weeks? That you've been kissing another man in parking lots? That you think I'm too boring, too busy, too... What, Rachel? What am I too much of? You're too good, I exploded. Too perfect, too understanding, too safe. Do you know what it's like being married to someone who never makes mistakes? Who saves dying children all day, then comes home and asks about my stupid job selling overpriced drugs? He flinched. I never thought your job was stupid. But it is. I'm stupid. My whole life is stupid compared to yours. And Cameron... I stopped, realizing I was making it worse. Cameron makes you feel smart, important. He makes me feel wanted, like I'm worth pursuing. I pursued you, Keith said quietly. I've never stopped pursuing you. But you're right. I don't play games. I don't make you chase me or wonder how I feel. I just love you consistently every day. I didn't know that was a flaw. It's not, I whispered. I'm the flaw. He shook his head slowly. No, he said, and for a moment I thought he was defending me. We're the flaw. I knew who you were when I married you, Rachel. Knew you needed drama, excitement, validation. I thought I could love you stable. Thought if I was steady enough, you'd eventually feel safe enough to stop performing. But you're not built for safe, are you? It meant nothing, I said, the words spilling out desperate and wrong. I swear to you, it meant nothing. He studied me for a long moment. That's the problem, isn't it? It meant nothing, and you did it anyway. What does that say about us, about what we mean? He got in the car and drove away, leaving me in the parking lot where I'd kissed Cameron, where I'd made choices that meant nothing and cost everything. I went back inside. Cameron was still at our booth, already chatting up another woman. When he saw me, he waved me over like nothing had happened. That went well, he said. Now we can have some real fun. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the empty smile, the calculating eyes, the kind of man who collected married women like trophies. Saw exactly what I'd traded Keith for. You're pathetic, I said. I'm pathetic. You're the one who just lost your meal ticket for a few parking lot makeout sessions. How's that for pathetic? I threw my martini in his face. Not my finest moment, but at least it was honest. Security escorted me out, Cameron yelling about assault charges that never materialized. He was too vain to admit a woman half his size had humiliated him in public. Keith wasn't home when I got there. Wasn't home the next morning either. On the kitchen counter, he'd left a note. Staying at Tom's. Please don't contact me. I need time to think. I gave him 3 days. 3 days of calling in sick to work, of drinking wine in our beautiful penthouse, of drafting texts I didn't send. On the 4th day, I went to Tom's house in Ballantyne begging to talk to him. 5 minutes, Keith said, stepping onto the porch. He looked tired, older. "Say what you need to say." "I'm sorry," I started. "I'm so sorry." I don't know what I was thinking. "Cameron means nothing to me." "Stop saying that," Keith interrupted. "Stop saying it meant nothing. Own what you did, Rachel. You wanted something I wasn't giving you, so you went looking for it somewhere else. That meant something. I didn't want him. I wanted, I don't know, attention, excitement, to feel special again. I told you you were beautiful every day. I supported your career, your social life, your need to be seen. What more did you want from me?" "I don't know." I was crying now, ugly sobs that ruined my makeup. "I don't know what's wrong with me. You're perfect, our life is perfect, and I ruined it for nothing." "There's that word again," Keith said sadly. "Nothing." "Do you know what your nothing cost me?" "I can't go to Ethos anymore. That's where my wife had her affair. I can't trust Thursday nights. You gave those to him. I can't look at you anymore without wondering what else you're lying about. It wasn't an affair. We never... You gave another man pieces of yourself that belonged to our marriage. You let him believe he could have you. You kissed him multiple times over 7 weeks while lying to my face. What would you call it?" I had no answer that would fix this. "I'm filing for divorce," he said quietly. "The prenup is pretty clear about infidelity. You'll get the car, some cash, I'll keep the penthouse." "Keith, please." "I loved you," he said, and the past tense shattered me. "I loved you even though I knew exactly who you were. Knew you needed more attention than one person could give. Knew you'd rather die than be ordinary. I thought loving you enough would be enough, but you can't love someone out of being who they are. I can change. I don't want you to change for me. I want you to find someone whose attention is enough for you. Because mine never was, and we both know it." He went inside. Tom came out a minute later with a box of my things. Jewelry, photos, the coffee mug Keith bought me that said, "World's okayest wife." I'd thought it was funny at the time. That was 8 weeks ago. The divorce will be final next month. Keith's already dating someone. A pediatric nurse who probably never needs to be the center of attention. Who probably thinks saving sick kids is more important than Thursday night martinis. Cameron disappeared the moment I became single. Turns out I was only interesting when I belonged to someone else. Now I'm just another divorced woman in Tucson, working a new pharmaceutical job where nobody knows my history, living in an apartment where nobody knows how I like my lavender tea, or that I ever mattered to someone who did. Keith was right about the prenup. I got the car and $50,000, enough to start over but not enough to maintain the life I thought I deserved. The penthouse sold last month. The new owners are a young family, the wife pregnant with twins. Keith performed their baby's heart surgery last week. Even now, he's fixing broken things while I'm still breaking them. I ran into his mother at Whole Foods last week. Helen had always been polite but never warm, like she was waiting for me to hurt her son. Turns out she was right to wait. "Rachel," she said, her voice carefully neutral beside the organic produce. "Helen!" I wanted to run but stood frozen, holding overpriced kale I couldn't really afford anymore. "Keith's doing well," she said, though I hadn't asked. "The new girlfriend is lovely." A pediatric nurse. They work together. "That's nice," I managed. "She makes him laugh," Helen continued, twisting the knife with surgical precision. "I haven't seen him this light in years." It's like he can finally breathe again. I understood what she meant. I'd been suffocating him slowly for years, needing more and more oxygen for myself until there was none left for him. "I'm glad," I said, and meant it. Keith deserved someone who could love him without needing an audience. "Are you?" Helen studied me with eyes just like Keith's. "Because you had 12 years to be glad about him. 12 years of that man coming home to you every night, choosing you every morning, planning his life around your needs. And you threw it away for what? Some pharmaceutical rep with good hair and empty compliments?" "I know what I did." "Do you?" "Because Keith still blames himself. Says he should have seen the signs, should have made more time, should have been more exciting. That beautiful fool is in therapy trying to figure out how he failed you. Her voice cracked slightly. You didn't just break my son's heart, Rachel. You broke my son, and he thinks it's his fault. My sister calls sometimes, asks if I'm okay. I tell her I'm fine, that it was for the best, that Keith and I wanted different things. But that's another lie, isn't it? Keith wanted me. I wanted everyone to want me. And in trying to have everything, I ended up with nothing. That word again, nothing. 8 weeks since I called 7 weeks of lies nothing. 8 weeks since Keith looked at me in a parking lot and saw exactly who I was. Someone who could throw away 12 years for a few moments of feeling desired by a man who forgot my name the minute I was available. The divorce papers are signed now. Witnessed. Notarized. Official. I'm no longer Rachel Donovan, the doctor's wife who had everything. I'm just Rachel Winters again, 34 and alone, with 537 deleted text messages and the memory of parking lot kisses that cost me the only man who ever really saw me. Keith was wrong about one thing, though. He said he couldn't fix me, but he did. Fixed me so thoroughly I can't even pretend anymore. Can't lie to myself about what I did or why I did it. Can't call it nothing when it was everything. Everything selfish, everything shallow, everything wrong with who I was. But knowing you're broken and actually changing are two different things. So I sit in my studio apartment, deleting messages from a man whose last name I never learned, signing papers that end a marriage I destroyed for the simple thrill of being wanted by someone new. 3 words. It meant nothing. The most expensive words I ever said, the biggest lie I ever told. The moment I revealed exactly who Keith always knew I was. Someone who could look at love and call it boring, who could hold trust and trade it for attention, who could have everything and convince herself it was nothing. 8 weeks since I learned the cruelest truth of all. When you call something nothing, it eventually becomes all you have.